Good afternoon to all the teachers watching this today. Today I will be exploring genre through literary and visual text. My name is Charlene van Staden and I will be doing the recording for us today. So what is CAPS genre? When we are looking at the CAPS document, a genre is a particular kind of text written with a specific purpose and audience in mind. It has a recognizable structure and language features. In the FET phase, the teaching of genre is a core component of the language curriculum. CAPS emphasizes that learners should be exposed to a wide variety of genres to develop their language, critical thinking, and interpretive skills. Genres commonly covered include literary text, which is novels, dramas, short stories, and poetry; media text, which is newspaper articles, advertisements, and opinion pieces; visual and multimodal text, which includes cartoons, photographs, infographics; and lastly, transactional writing, which includes letters, reports, dialogues, and reviews. Today I will explore genre through literary and visual text by looking at a short story which falls under literary text as well as a cartoon which falls under visual and multimodal text. The short story is The Suitcase, written by Iskian Falele. The short story handles about a young couple, Timmy and his wife, who moved from a rural area to the city in search for a better life. Despite Timmy's education and ambitions, he struggles to find a stable work due to the oppressive apartheid system and economic hardship. Desperate to support his pregnant wife, Timmy steals a suitcase from a woman on a bus, hoping that it contains something valuable. Instead of riches, he discovered personal belongings, a dead baby that could not have been born more than 12 hours ago. He was looking for something better in a world that has rejected him. This type of story speaks of the contemporary issues in South Africa. It speaks of those who has nothing and steals to sustain and survive. By looking at the cartoon chosen, it shows a large airplane labeled The Economy, stuck on the ground with overgrown weeds around the wheels, indicating stagnation. A tiny car labeled Economic Stimulus Package is attempting to jumpstart the airplane using jumper cables. A politician is leaning out the window of the cockpit yelling, "Still nothing, hit it again." The cartoon represents the South African government's struggle to revive the national economy, possibly in context of continued economy challenges, for example, unemployment and slow growth. This brings me to theme selection. A theme is the main ideas and messages the writer wishes to explore. This could be personal, political, and social. Themes are often set up as binaries, which is good and evil, freedom and oppression, and etc. In the short stories, the main common theme is economic hardship, which refers to the difficulties individuals or families face due to unemployment, poverty, or inequality, while resilience reflects the human ability to adapt, survive, and maintain dignity despite these challenges. I have chosen this theme for the grade 11 group because they have only a year before they leave school and enter the real world, if I can put it like that. South African learners are directly and indirectly affected by the socio-economic issues like unemployment and inequality. These texts reflect the lived realities, making learning more relatable and engaging. Both texts use accessible language, but allows for extension into deeper discussion. Communicative Language Teaching, CLT, and Text-Based Overview. Communicative language teaching, CLT, is a teaching approach that emphasizes interaction as both the means and goal of learning a language. It focuses on real-life communication, encouraging learners to use language functionally and fluently, rather than just memorizing grammatical rules. This method makes use of learner-centered classroom, which the students do most of the talking because the target language is a priority. Learners' learning is more important than teachers' teaching. Remember, your teaching is only as good as what the learners have learned. CAPS levels. There is 5 CAPS levels in total. Genre activities vary in cognitive levels. According to the CAPS document, grade 10 to 12 on page 79, level 1 is the literal level. This includes activities like questions that explicitly deals with information as stated in the text. Level 2 is the recognition of information. These activities have questions that requires analysis, synthesis, and organization of information that is stated in the text. Both these levels contribute 40% to the task. Level 3 is interference and interpretation. Activities in this level require learners to interpret messages that is not explicitly stated by linking information from different parts and using prior knowledge. This level is alone 40% of the task. Level 4 is the evaluation level. The questions in this level deal with judgment concerning values and worth. This includes judgments regarding reality and credibility, facts and opinions. An example of the question could be, do you agree with? And then level 5, the last level, is the appreciation level. These questions are intended to assess the psychological and aesthetic impact of the text of the candidate. Both level 5 and level 4 contribute 20% to the task. It is important to include the weight of all these questions in the task to test all the abilities of the learners, and it aligns with the CLT because it encourages active engagement, problem solving, and meaningful interaction. When you assess your teaching, you can use Bloom's taxonomy. The goal of the educator using Bloom's taxonomy is to encourage higher order thought in their students by building up from the lower level cognitive skills. Both these can be combined. For example, level 2 reorganization of information can be used with the application level, and etc. It is important to use these levels to have a balanced curriculum delivery and develop different skills. We are going to look at short story elements. The suitcase. So when we look at the setting, the story took place during the 1950s in a rural area called Sophiatown, which is known for a poor area. The characters are Timmy, which is the main character, his wife, the people on the bus that is arguing with him about the suitcase, and also the police officers that stop him at the end asking what is inside the suitcase. So when we look at the structure of the story, the rising action is that Timmy remains unemployed despite his efforts providing for his pregnant wife. When we look at the climax, Timmy steals a suitcase that is left unattended, which he believes that there is something valuable that might help him and his wife to survive. However, when opening the suitcase in front of the officer, he finds a dead baby inside. This is an emotional and moral peak of the story. So when we go over to the falling action, we see that Timmy is overwhelmed with horror and guilt. which leads to the resolution that the story ends with a sense of despair and uncertainty. The story concludes by exposing the harsh realities of poverty, failed dreams, and moral compromise under systemic oppression. We can do a short activity of the short story together. So after reading the suitcase, we can plot the structure. For example, the exposition, who are the main characters and what is the setting? The rising action, what events create tension or conflict for the main character? The climax, what is the most dramatic turning point of the story? The falling action, what happens after the climax? How do the characters respond to the climax? And resolution, how does the story end? Is the conflict resolved or is it left open? So the generic elements for the visual text. So it is important to identify the characters in the cartoon. So when we look at the politician up there and the car on the bottom, so we have to identify if there are any stereotypes, meaning is there any meaning behind the facial expressions? Does the body language say anything? Then we need to look at the background and the setting. When and where is it taking place? The language and punctuation. Is there slang, phrases and sentences, punctuation? Are the letters in bold? Are they using capitals? So let's look at an activity for the cartoon. So the symbolism. What objects or images represent abstract ideas? For example, the plane or the car. So the plane labeled the economy and the small card labeled economic stimulus package. The airplane represents South Africa's economy. The small car symbolizes ineffective government efforts to boost it. And then we can see that the growing weeds behind the airplane represents stagnation. There are speech bubbles. What is said? Who says it? So it says, still nothing, hit it again. This shows frustration and a lack of progress. That is suggested that they are repeated failed attempts to retrieve the economy. Then 3. Exaggeration. The very small car trying to power a massive plane. This highlights the inadequacy of government stimulus plans. So this means that what features are distorted or enlarged for effect. The small car and the very large airplane. Irony. What contrast is there between what is expected and what happens? Despite the effort to revive the economy, still nothing happens. The government expects results from an ineffective method. And then stereotype. How are people or issues drawn in a simplified or exaggerated way? The government figure speaking out of the airplane window. It is likely a political leader, which is typical for political cartoons. Conclusion. So by using a communicative language teaching, CLT, and text-based approach, this presentation has shown how learners can be guided to explore the structure, language features, and visual conventions of each genre. The selected activities are scaffolded across different cognitive levels as per CAPS, fostering both foundational understanding and critical thinking. Ultimately, these texts do more than entertain. They spark reflection, develop language skills, and deepen learners' social awareness, mainly making them ideal choices for effective, context-sensitive English teaching illustrations for FET phase. Are there any questions? you.